to you today, talking to you today more as the department's internship coordinator and less as your professor. I want to talk a little bit about sort of the process of getting an internship, not the process that we would discuss about getting an internship for credit, but just the process of getting an internship in general. Not every internship you have to do is for credit. So, starting with internships, it's work for a company or organization. Thinking specifically about PR, we have a lot of agencies in the city, we have a lot of corporate in the city, we have a lot of nonprofits in the city. All of those are opportunities for different aspects of public relations internships. Beyond that, you can do different things. So thinking specifically about a student I had last fall, did an internship with the university's communication office, which is definitely within public relations, but not necessarily one of the normal avenues you'd think of. Every semester we have a student working with the College of Communication and Fine Arts to produce the alumni newsletter for the college. So again, that's something that's public relations. These are opportunities that you don't necessarily think of. Internships can be paid or unpaid, and they can be for credit or not for credit. There's a lot of flexibility. You kind of get to see what you can see, because lots of things can count for an internship. Another story, I had a student last year who was friends with a realtor. And if you know anything about real estate, there's a lot of public relations that goes on in real estate, from planning open houses to designing flyers to doing websites and social media. That's definitely a PR internship, and what she did for her internship was that she worked with the realtor and designed flyers for houses, set up open house events, and planned what was going to be tweeted on social media, posted on Facebook, whatnot, for all of these events and all of these houses as they were listed. And that whole experience was something that she had a lot of flexibility in. She could do it. She had 2 kids. She was kind of finishing school, and she did it part-time at 11 o'clock at night on her own time and telecommuted to work, basically. So that's sort of to show you, an internship doesn't just have to be getting up at 9 in the morning, going to the office, working until 4, coming back here and finishing classes at night. Like, there's a lot of things that could work for internships. So, my nerdiness is showing, and I'm quoting Sun Tzu's The Art of War, because the first step of finding an internship or finding a job is to know thyself. Know who you are and know what you want to do. Something that Chrissy said that I thought was really good was that you find out very quickly if you are or are not intended for agency work. And if that's something you're not sure of, now is the time to find out. And much better that you find out now than in the first job. So if you can take one of those unpaid internships where the stakes are a little bit lower, and you see, ooh, I've done this, and this is not working, and this is not for me, I'm going to finish it and get my credit and leave a good impression, but I have realized that this is not my plan, that's fine. Know who you are, know what you want. Also know what your talents and skills are. Looking at this room, I know what some of you are talented in. And I know what some of you are not talented in. And that's okay. There are things out there that I'm good at and things that I'm terrible at. And the same is true for every one of you. The key is to not get a job in something that you're terrible at without the desire to improve greatly. So if I were to go out in the job market tomorrow looking for an internship, I know maybe the 10 skills that I'm willing to do. Know what you want, so that way you can start targeting your searches for positions that fit what you want to do versus being the desperate, I need an internship and I don't care what it is. Because just like the night before prom, no one wants to go with a date that's desperate.
That was good.
Also find out what your passions are. Something Kate and I had a nice talk recently about was doing work with passion and doing work without passion. If work is without passion, it's very much work. And if you don't enjoy getting up and going to that internship every day, then you're not going to get a good experience. So ask yourself why you're doing this. Am I doing this internship to get course credit? Am I doing this internship to network? Am I doing this internship so that I can get a better internship somewhere else? Each of these plays a role, and they all are sort of a step in the process from student to professional. And you might have 4 or 5 internships. You might have 1 internship. You might have, hopefully, have no internships. I want you to have at least 1. But the idea is that knowing what your end goal is, what your next step after this internship, helps you to realize what you need to do to make this internship successful and help it be your launch pad to your next internship or job. So, get ready. Getting ready starts with searching. You know who you are, now go find the people who want to meet you. There are people out there looking for everything that you can imagine in terms of specialty. Find something that meets the needs, that meets your passion, that meets your skills, that meets your availability. That means that you can think about where you can live. So something that Chrissy brought up, their summer internships are very competitive because students go away to college, they come back to Memphis for the summer, and there's students who have gone to college all over the country, coming back home to live with their family in the summer and doing their internship here. Because if you're going to college in Starkville, Mississippi, there's no place to intern down there. You have to come to a Memphis. So fortunately for us, we're in a Memphis, so we can intern all year long. But that's not to say that we can't leave too. And one of the better things that happens for our students is that when they get to leave Memphis, they get to see an entirely different perspective on the world, and they can either come back to Memphis and be very successful because they have some outside perspective and outside contacts, or they can use that as a launch pad to go somewhere bigger. So think about where you can live. Do you have an aunt that you can tolerate enough to live in her basement for 12 weeks of the summer for an internship? This is something that you can kind of think about. Whenever last fall, we had a student intern at Entertainment Night in Los Angeles. And she said, you know what? I don't have any friends there, I don't have any family there, but I'm gonna make it work, I'm gonna save some money. That was how that situation worked for her. Meanwhile, I think of another student who we had who interned in Nashville and was staying with cousins in Nashville while he was up there for the 4 days a week of his internship. So nearby, we have a lot of good things going on in Nashville, in St. Louis, in Atlanta, in Chicago, in New Orleans. You know, not to say that these cities are better or worse than Memphis, but they're different. The fact is, when you come back to Memphis and you have experience from somewhere else, it makes you stand out. You are not every other U of M student who's interned at the same 3 places. Everyone interns at ALSAC, we all know that. That's not a bad thing. It's a great gig to get. But if you said, well, I've done ALSAC, and then I spent a semester at Edelman, or a semester at Fleischmann-Hillard, all of a sudden you're a hot commodity. Think about how you can pay your bills. If that internship is unpaid, you've got to pay the bills. The rent is still due. And if you're doing work for free, which is a situation that happens with some internships, you have to figure out how you're going to manage your money. If you're living away and you can afford rent, or you're living with a relative away, that can all work out. But it's something to consider. The third part is working on your personal branding and selling yourself. So I've got some handouts at the front that I hope are redundant to what you already know, because I'm hoping that you have read them already. But if not, they're there. So there are instructions for your resume, your cover letter. You know about your website, your personal portfolio that you're required to maintain by the department, your personal branding that you're required to make and include on your resume and cover letter and portfolio. You need to think about your social media. And this isn't to say that your social media need to be listed on everything, but more than that, your social media need to be good. If The spring break starts next week. If you go to Cancun and make bad decisions, don't tweet about it. Because employers are going to see those tweets, and unless you're going to go work for Girls Gone Wild, it's not going to send the professional image that you want to have. That's not to say you can't be fun, it's not to say that you can't have opinions, it's not to say that you can't have a personality, but there are limits. There are things that you want to do on your social media, and there are things you say, you know, not every thought in my head needs to go out there. You can also develop a business card. I know that we require you to do that in courses. It can be a good thing to have. It can also be a piece of paper that gets recycled pretty quickly. Realize that a business card is not the answer to every problem. So, then you start to network. By nature of you being in this room, you have already done well. Good job. Those of you who are not in this room, or those of you who are joining online but have the opportunity to be in this room, shame. What's happening is that there are 3 professionals in this room, or were 3 professionals in this room, that could get you somewhere else. And if they don't get you to their organization, they can get you to another organization that they're affiliated with, or they're aware of. The fact is, the entire Memphis PR industry fits in one room once a month. It's a small group. It is smaller than your high school graduating class. So networking can be fairly simple to do in person. You show up, you make a good impression, and people will start to remember you. They see you over and over again, they'll say, oh yeah, I know her, I know him. She's always prepared, she's always dressed properly, she talks about herself, she knows how to talk about herself, she knows what's going on. I want to bring her into my organization. Clubs are a big deal. Obviously, you know that because you're here. But like I said, all of Memphis PR meets in a room once a month. You can go to that meeting. You are welcome to go, and you should go. I have gone, and I'm not even a PR person, but I've gone and I've met people. And the first time you go, they kind of shame you into standing up and introducing yourself. And when I went the first time, I stood up and introduced myself and found out that there was another University of South Carolina graduate in the room. And she and I connected that day, and we've been friends ever since. So you never know necessarily how or why you're going to bond with a person, but when you're exposing yourself in a club situation, that sounds really bad. When you're putting yourself out there at an organization like PRSSA, you're able to start cultivating that brand and that name recognition. You also want to do this online. So those of you joining us from a distance, this is a good thing to think about. You don't have to network in person all the time. We have Twitter chats from PRSA and PRSSA that are national and that are regional and that are local. You can meet people this way. You can start a relationship this way. One of my good friends as a professor, I met because she guest lectured in someone else's class who was a friend of mine via Skype, and she and I started following each other on Twitter that day, and we've been friends and co-authors since. Social media is a great way, we talked about that. You need to be ready to talk to strangers, which is a strange concept to think about because I don't want to talk to strangers. You've been raised to not talk to strangers, but you have to go out there and put yourself on the line and maybe risk embarrassment of saying, hi, I'm Matt Haught, I'm at the University of Memphis, nice to meet you, and they say, oh, hi, and they turn around and walk away, and you're like, oh, I'm not cool. That's all right, that happens. It's just a fact. But if you do this enough, it's going to start to work. And each time you do this, each time you introduce yourself to someone you don't know, it's a little less scary. And let's be honest, this is public relations. No one is a stranger in PR. Everyone wants to be everyone's friend from the get-go. So it's great. It's an easy way to network. And the network is the first and biggest step to getting a job. Every job I have ever had, including the current one, I knew who was hiring me before I went on my job interview. Whenever I interviewed for my job here, I met Dr. Haught, at a conference 3 years before I ever even considered applying to the University of Memphis for a job. Thinking back to the jobs before that, I knew people there already. The odds are, I think 90% is the statistic, that you get hired by someone you already know. So if you don't know anybody, then you're not going to get hired. But this is why networking is so important. So going forward to the interview, this is a little bit of a different stage. You've applied, you've got your resume on point, you've got your cover letter down, you maybe send it as an email, which is a normal way to send a cover letter at this point. You've attached your resume, you've had maybe a phone interview or a Skype interview, and you're now ready for the face-to-face interview. Clean yourself off. You see how I'm dressed? This is not interview appropriate. What's missing? The jacket.
More resume, cover letter.
I'm going to wear my resume.
You're gonna bring it though.
I'm going to bring it.
You're gonna accessorize.
I'm going to accessorize it. All right. You would wear a jacket, or you would wear a dress. Probably. Probably. Not necessarily. It depends on the kind of operation. So, remember when we talked about knowing thyself? Know thy employer. Know thy potential employer. If it's an operation where they wear jeans to work every day, like somewhere on the West Coast, or city gear apparently, that's the corporate culture you're going to fit into. And you need to show that you're ready and that you're a part of that team. You don't want to look so different than everyone else. That said, you can never go wrong by overdressing. A suit will always be fine. A dress will always be fine. It's better to overdress than to underdress. So clean up and go shopping. If you don't have the clothes that are appropriate, go buy them. Go buy one. Ask for it for your birthday. Ask for it for a holiday. There are ways that you can get the interview clothes you need to get, because if you aren't dressed the part, fake it till you make it, dress the part. Show up like you look like you belong there, and eventually you'll learn to belong there. You have to be prepared to talk. Whenever you're on your interview, people are going to ask you questions all the time, every moment. And an interview can be an hour long. It could be a couple days long. There was a newspaper job that I interviewed for that I stayed 2 nights and worked like the full night shift 2 nights because they wanted to see how you performed on the job. So, yeah, it was weird. It was not, I didn't take it. But it's a thing that can happen. So realize that an interview can take a whole lot of forms. And anytime you're interacting with someone who is on that hiring team, it's an interview. Even if they tell you that, oh, we're just friends now, we're just talking like we're normal people, that is a lie. That is a lie. And Dr. Janowski would tell you that's a lie that she and I regularly tell people when people are interviewing for jobs here. Oh, you can tell us anything.
No, you're fine.
Yeah. Let your guard down. Tell me what you want to know. And it might be at that point you do ask some more relaxed questions or casual questions, but it's still part of the interview, and these are still people who are going to decide whether they're going to bring you in or not. So know how to talk about yourself, how to talk about your skills, how to talk about your talents, how to talk about the work that you have done, where you want to go in 5 years, how you handle difficult situations. Not necessarily about your personal life, but not about your personal life. You need to show that you are a person still. You're not a working robot, but you don't want to begin the conversation about your children and your dog and your spouse. They want to know the professional stuff first. Rehearse. Talk to the mirror. Talk to your friends. Walk the dog and tell the dog. The dog will listen no matter what. So will the cat. But rehearse all these questions. Rehearse all this conversation. Think about it in the shower. Think about it in the drive. Always kind of know where that question is coming from and know kind of what you would say for an answer. You can think of the basic ones, the basic interview questions. What are your biggest skills? Why should I hire you versus other people? What's one of your weaknesses? How are you an asset to this company? What makes you different than everyone else? Those are basic interview questions. Have answers loaded for those. You don't have to sit and wait and think about all those when they're asked. And certainly don't go, well, I need to think about that. No. Interview kryptonite. You will not get that job. Have something for those basic questions. Now, if they throw you one on the left field, then you can pause and say, well, I need to think about that for a moment, and then start talking. But you have to have something to say. And if you don't answer the question, if they ask you a question, this is not the presidential debate. Answer the question. Talking is not answering the question. You ask this, here is my answer specific to that question. So thinking about all those things and preparing for all those things, mentally rehearsing, talking to the dog, talking to your friends. Hey, Kate, will you pretend to interview me for this job? I want to practice. You do that. It's simple. All right, the last step is to repeat. Do well at the internship and leave on good terms. If you leave the internship at bad terms, remember what I said? That all of Memphis PR meets in one room once a month? And it's smaller than your high school class. Do you remember how much you gossiped in high school? It's worse. Corporate gossip is huge. And everyone knows everybody's business. So if you do bad or mess up really bad at one place, it's on you. So do well and leave on good terms. Be professional. Make a good impression. In the interview, in every interaction, be a professional. Stand taller and shine brighter than everyone else. Be who you think you should be. But think of your future always. Your internship is not your first job. Your internship is not your last job. There's always a next job. There's always a next step. Unless you're 70 years old, something is going to change for you in your career in the next 5 years. So be thinking about, how am I going to get to where I want to be in 5 years? Where does that put me in 20 years, in 10 years? This internship is just a step, but every step counts. So always be thinking about what I'm doing now and how I can talk about that later. You know, whenever you go on that next job interview or the next internship, they're going to say, oh, I saw that you worked last summer at Walker & Associates. What did you do there? Tell me about that. And you can talk about the projects you're involved in. You can talk about your experiences. It'll show that you know what you're doing. It adds to your credibility. So always think about what you're doing now and how it affects your future so that you can be prepared to make those next steps in the next couple of years. On the other side of the coin, you don't always get the internship, and that really sucks. Unfortunately, if there are 500 applicants to one job and there are 2 positions to be filled, then there are 498 sad people. And that's a fact. And we can't get around that because that's math. But ultimately, there's an internship out there for everybody. There's a job out there for everybody. You just have to find the one that fits you and the one that wants you back. So if you don't get an internship, okay. Well, that sucks. But I met people and I made a good impression on them. And they're going to think of me later. Oh, we didn't hire her. Why didn't we hire her? Oh, because we hired her. Well, let's go back and talk to her this time. Leaving that good impression will make sure, you'll make sure that you raise top of mind awareness. That whenever your name crosses their desk again, it's not going to be, oh, that mess? I remember that. That's why we didn't hire him. Learn from your mistake. Learn from your interview. Learn from not getting the job. And go on to the next. There are lots of internships. You can always find one. So, to that end, getting an internship starts with joining the Department of Journalism LinkedIn group. I just did a bunch of moderating on this the other day, and many of you in this room are not members. Shame, shame, shame. Because what happens is every week, we're posting 30 internships to this department's LinkedIn group, local, regional, national, and by not being a member, you're not aware of what's going on. So every week, you get that spotlight in your email from Ms. Hazlett. All of those, a lot of those, are people who have called me, like Taylor Oaks. Hey Matt, we're looking for an intern. Okay, send me an ad. You did, and you hired one of our students as an intern. Whenever people call me like this, they want to hire you, one of you. They don't want an intern. They want a Memphis Department of Journalism intern because they graduated from here or because they've had good experience with students from here. So they specifically want you. And if you aren't in the group and you aren't reading your email, then you're missing out. Bless you. And that's a shame because there's a lot of good opportunities out there. And I can't, if I could hold every one of your hand and drag your resume and your cover letter to this person and make a match, I would. But I need your help. So, of all things, take the LinkedIn handout, join the group if you haven't already, read the spotlight email every week, and see something that's out there and apply for it. The worst thing that can happen when you apply for a job is that they say no. More often they'll say no than they'll say yes, but that's okay. Every time you apply, you're getting exposure. Just don't be desperate. That's what we got. So I'm going to turn things back over to Kate to lead us, and Dr. Janowski for the resume critique.